Hey Islanders, this is Hana, and welcome back to my island. Back in June, the Grammys created a new Best Asian Pop category. And now the Grammys finally got an answer from BTS themselves. So I wanted to sit down and talk it through with you. Shall we begin? Back in March, BTS came back on stage at Gwanghwamun Square in Seoul. I wasn't there in person. I watched it live, streamed around the world on Netflix. And a little later, I watched the clips from their world tour, Tokyo, Tampa, Paris, everywhere on YouTube and social media. Even through a screen, those moments stayed with me. All seven members back together after finishing their military service singing Arirang. Tens of thousands of fans from every country, every language, singing along. This is a song that once symbolized the resistance during Japan's colonial rule over Korea. And there they were, Japanese fans, foreign fans who barely know that painful history. All of them singing every syllable back. This song was written out of sorrow. Now it was coming back from all over the world as love and solidarity, understood without a single word being translated. That's the power of music. Back in February, I watched the Bad Bunny win Album of the Year at the Grammys, and I felt like I heard a door open. The Grammys had been around for 68 years, and there was a first. The first time a Spanish language album took the top prize. So I did some simple math. If Spanish could walk through that door, Korean couldn't be far behind. I was naive. BTS had been nominated again and again and gone home empty handed every single time. So I thought this must finally be the year they get what they have waited for. But a few months later, the Grammys gave a very different answer. They asked BTS a question instead. Where do you belong? The organization behind the Grammys, the Recording Academy, announced a new category in June. Best Asian Pop Music Performance. A space, they said, for K-pop, J-pop, C-pop. Music that comes from Asia or uses Asian languages in a meaningful way. When I first heard this, I honestly didn't know what to think. Was this progress or a step backward? Let's imagine something for a second. Imagine Korea's own music awards, MAMA, created a new category called US Pop. Just for songs sung in English, set off to the side. The main prizes stay for Korean music. US Pop gets politely tucked into its own room. It sounds ridiculous, right? People everywhere would call it outdated, and they would be right to. But that absurdity is exactly what shows us how the Grammys Asian pop category looks from the other side of the world. Here's the problem. The moment the standard isn't the music itself anymore, the moment it becomes language or where you're from, in other words, your ethnicity. That's the moment music stops being universal. It becomes something set apart. The Grammys said they would group music from Korea, Japan, China, Thailand, and Indonesia, all under one label, Asian Pop. But they don't do the same for the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Nobody's calling that Anglo pop. Different language, different history, different cultures entirely. So why does all of Asian music get folded into one box? For a long time, the West has looked at the world with itself as the center. And everything outside the center got lumped together under one name. There was exclusion in that. There was curiosity too. Respect and consumption often happening at the same time. This Asian pop category stands right in the line with that old way of looking at things. Here's the thing though. By the Grammys' own rule, take BTS Dynamite and Butter, or Rose's APT, or Jenny's Like Jenny. None of them would even qualify for this new category because most of them are sung in English. So the real problem is somewhere else. These songs were sung in English and they were massive hits. Dynamite and Butter both hit number one on the Billboard Hot 100. APT climbed all the way to number three, and they still couldn't make it through the Grammy's main categories. Song of the Year, Artist of the Year, Album of the Year. BTS got nominated for the same category 3 years running. Best Pop Duo Group Performance for Dynamite, Butter, and My Universe with Coldplay. A different song each year, but always landing in the same spot. They never won. And during all those years, everyone in the industry knew something. Rating went up every time BTS performed on the Grammy stage. For 3 years straight, the Grammys put them on stage. They got the ratings boost, then sent them home without a trophy. This is recognition that's really separation in disguise. And that is new. And this new Asian pop category came right after Bad Bunny's Album of the Year win. But Latin music already had its own ecosystem, the Latin Grammys, going back to 2000. Bad Bunny's win was the result of decades of that foundation. Asian pop never had a path like that. Being handed a room of your own isn't always a bad thing. It can be a sign that people finally see you. But this new category carries two meanings at once. It's an admission that Asian pop music now has influence too big to ignore. And at the same time, it's a way of placing that influence back inside the system built by the US entertainment industry. The Grammys already proved they can give their top award to a fully non English album. But for Asian pop, instead of the same door, they built a brand new room. And they put a label right on that door, basically saying, "This is your area, right here. Don't cross the line." The door to the main competition stays exactly where it was. That's why people started calling this Grammy ghettoization the same day it was announced. The timing said a lot too. BTS has just released their comeback album Arirang and were in the middle of the world tour. And right then, out of nowhere, this Asian pop category appeared. I'm not going to be generous about how this looks. It was cunning, it was disrespectful, it showed a real lack of understanding. This was a group selling out shows across the globe. And right in the middle of that, someone decided it was time to draw a new line, a line around the language and region. On July 29th, 2026, BTS answered quietly, not through an official statement from their label. All seven members posted on their personal Instagram at the exact same time, the exact same words, word for word. Their fifth studio album, Arirang, would not be submitted for a Grammy consideration this year. Music shouldn't be divided by region or language, they said. They just want their music to be heard and loved for what it is. 7 accounts, 7 posts, 1 voice. This wasn't just the words floating in the air. Right now, in this very moment, BTS is proving it with their own bodies on stage. In every city on this tour, it's the same. Fans who don't speak Korean, who aren't even from Korea, singing every word right back in Korean, in Tokyo, in Tampa, in Paris. They are already showing us live on stage that region and language were never really the problem, which makes what they said even more powerful. To some people, this decision might look arrogant. This is an artist the Grammys ignored for years. And now that the door is finally open, they are choosing not to walk through it. But I see something else here. This isn't arrogance. It's a precise, deliberate refusal. Back in 2022, at a press conference in LA, Suga said something like this. Keep striking a tree, he said, and eventually it falls. Jin said the Grammys were the one award they haven't won yet. That's how much they wanted it. But the longing is pointed somewhere different now. It's no longer just, oh, I want to win this award. It's become, under what conditions would I even accept it? Something you wanted for years handed to you finally, but with the strings attached. And you decide to walk away. I think that takes more maturity and more dignity than simply accepting it would have. There's one verse from their album Arirang I kept thinking about. Aliens. In it, RM brings back a name he quoted years ago in his UN speech, the independence activist Kim Gu. And he points out something about himself directly in the lyrics, that he is the only one of the seven who can do interviews in English. It doesn't read like bragging. It reads more like confession. Depending on how you hear it, it's also something else. A quiet jab at a standard that Western media built a long time ago. For years, Western reporters mocked the group, saying they couldn't function without RM doing the English interviews. But that mockery came from an assumption of its own, that English was the only language that counted as real communication. These days, you will find a French journalist who learned Korean just to interview K-pop artists directly. Later in the verse, RM looks straight at all the doubt, even the outright hostility that's been aimed at the group. He borrows an idea from traditional Korean fortune telling. In that tradition, a reading that looks like a terrible luck can actually flip into something deeply lucky. What looks like a bad omen, he said, can turn out to be the biggest blessing. RM's verse mixes Korean and English. I won't quote RM's actual lines here since they are his lyrics to share, not mine to repeat. But that's the shape of what the verse does. And here is the real core of it. In the verse, RM turns a line straight back at the people who used to stare at him. People with wide eyes, he says, the ones asking, are they even for real? For years, BTS faced the racist mockery across the US, Europe, and South America. And not from anonymous accounts online, from public broadcasters, from national news networks. Under the Biden administration, Fox News host Tucker Carlson mocked the BTS visit to the White House. Not long ago, a Fox affiliate in Texas introduced a BTS collaboration cookie, and they threw in the phrase, Death to America, calling it a joke. A radio host on Bayerischer Rundfunk, a German public broadcaster, compared BTS to the coronavirus. He suggested sending them on vacation to North Korea. Just recently, a Brazilian social media influencer mocked them right after their halftime performance at the 2026 World Cup final. She called them effeminate and vain. I could easily list hundreds more examples. If public broadcasters and professional journalists talk this way, you can imagine what gets said by anonymous people online. Change where you are standing and the view changes. Most people know the racist gesture, pulling at the corners of your eyes to mock Asian people. From a Korean point of view, white people have unusually wide eyes. That's the same curious, sizing up look BTS had been on the receiving end of for years. And the question behind that look, are they even for real? Gets folded straight into the lyrics. RM puts the question right back into the song. And in doing that, he shows us how much doubt, how much distance was already built into it. Bad Bunny won Album of the Year in February this year. BTS released Arirang in March. The Grammys announced the Asian pop category in June. BTS announced they wouldn't submit their album in July. The song got there before any of this happened. And right now, Aliens is back at #1 on iTunes in the US and hundreds countries now. That's ARMY BTS fans protesting the Grammys and standing with the group. This brings me back to where I think the Grammys got it wrong from the start. Good music doesn't stop at a border or a language. Those foreign fans singing Arirang in Gwangamu's gear, that was the proof. It crossed over without any translation at all. But the Grammys tried to build a wall that wasn't even there before. This music belongs here, that music belongs there. They tried to draw a new line. BTS' answer wasn't "we won't cross that line." It was refusing to accept that the line should exist in the first place. If someone's playing a rigged game with you, sometimes the best move is to just walk away from the table. And also, this is the point. None of the members got angry. None of them lectured anyone. 7 names all at once simply declined the box labeled Asian music. The Grammys asked, "Where do you belong?" And BTS already had their answer before the question was even finished. They'd already proven it, one sold out stadium at a time, all over the world. The day after BTS announcement, the Grammys responded too. Harvey Mason Jr., CEO of the Recording Academy, posted on the Grammys official account. He said he understood and respected BTS' decision, but he insisted the new Asian pop category was meant to celebrate Asian pop music, its depth, its range, how much it's grown, not to separate or discriminate. On the surface, that sounds kind enough, but look closer and it gets more uncomfortable. It leaves one thing untouched: the assumption that they had the right to sort music by region, ethnicity, and language in the first place. They just wrap that assumption up as a celebration just for you. It's not so different from saying, "Good job, now sit quietly in the room we made for you." BTS define themselves on their own terms, which means they no longer need a Grammy trophy to prove anything. What I actually care about isn't whether the Grammys or the Oscars or the Tonys choose to recognize us. It's this. Why is it that even now, K-culture and K-pop already have global influence? And yet, we still only feel like we've made it once America's approval system signs off on it. And why do we accept that so naturally without even questioning it? I'm not free from this either. What we actually need isn't more approval from the US entertainment industry. What we need is our own set of standards, our own way of seeing the culture value we've already built, whether the US approves or not. We can be angry that Grammys handed us a room off to the side. But here's the catch. As long as we are still watching closely, still checking how the people running that house judge us, we are still standing outside their front door. Sometimes the most polite way of sorting people is also the deepest kind of exclusion. Getting a nicer room in that house matters less than deciding for ourselves what music we call great and by what standard. But right now, BTS is opening up a different path. Kids growing up in the US and Europe right now are watching K-pop demon hunters, K-dramas, K-films, BTS, and K-pop artists. For these kids, there's less room for that old imperial idea that the West is superior. Less room for the assumption that white is somehow better than anyone else. When the US got its first black woman Supreme Court justice, someone out there was watching, a young black girl, and she thought, maybe I could be a justice too someday. That's how the ceiling on someone's dreams gets pushed higher. Kids who grow up watching Asian artists speak up and stand their ground on their own terms. They don't set a low ceiling for themselves either. They are opening up a world without limits. These kids are the hope. So, what did you think? I would love to know what you think about all this. Leave a comment and let's talk about it together. If this video meant something to you, a like and a subscribe really helps. This has been Hana's Island. You're safe here now. Until we meet again, stay a while on the island that fits your own latitude. Take care. Bye.